Okay, so this is going to be the last set of notes for Unit 7. We're on Unit 7.3. Okay, and today we're going to solve rational equations. Solve rational equations. You are going to see two different types of rational equations. Okay, and I'll show you the difference. Okay. Example number 1, and we have a total of 5 today, 5 examples. Okay, for example number 1, 7 over x minus 2 equals 11 over 2x minus 10. 7 over x minus 2 equals 11 over 2x minus 10. If there is one fraction on each side of the equals. One fraction on each side of the equals. Okay, if there's one fraction on each side of the equals, then you solve, anyone think they know? By doing what? Cross multiplying. Okay, if there's one fraction on each side of the equal sign, you solve by cross multiplying. Okay, we're going to cross multiply. Hopefully you guys all remember a little bit how to cross multiply. So literally we're just going to multiply, some of you guys might have called this like x multiplying. Okay, so we're going to multiply this one together and we're going to multiply these together. So we're going to multiply 11 times x minus 2, and you might do this in the same step, equals 7 times 2x minus 10. Okay, so set those equal to one another. Then you actually want to distribute, so this gives you 11x minus 22 equals 14x minus 70. 11x minus 22 equals 14x minus 70. Now, a lot of people are having some trouble figuring out how do you know when you have to move everything to one side and set it equal to 0, and how do you know when you get numbers and letters on the opposite side? Does anyone remember? Okay, when you have just x by itself, okay, so with x to the first power, okay, by itself, no square. Okay, when you have just x by itself, to solve, get numbers and letters on opposite sides. That is a number sign. It's not a hashtag. Okay, it's a number sign. It's always been a number sign. I don't know who made it up to call it hashtag, but it's a number sign. Okay, with x, to solve, get numbers on one side, letters on the other side. And some of this is like super basic. I know that you guys already know how to do this, but just as like really good review. Okay, so here we want to put numbers on one side, letters on the other side. So which way would you like to move the letters? To the right or to the left? Probably want to move them to the right because this one's smaller. And if we want to deal with negative or positive numbers, you want to move them that way. Okay, the numbers you're going to move to the other side. So that means we're going to add 70 to both sides. And you can do this all in one step, or you can do a couple different steps. Doesn't really matter. Okay, these go away. Negative 22 and positive 70 gives you what? 48 equals, these go away, 14x minus 11x gives you 3x. Then to get x by itself, divide both sides by 3. 48 divided by 3 gives you what? 16 equals x. Now, technically, okay, you can get something called extraneous roots for these. So we should, I emphasize should, check your answers, okay, by plugging them back in. But I'm going to tell you, they're all going to end up working out, okay? But if you go to advanced math next year, then you're going to start dealing with numbers like this where you have to check your answers because sometimes one's not going to work, Okay, so I'm just telling you, I'm not going to make you check them, but technically you should check your answers. Okay, however, I doubt that most of you will do it. Okay, for number 2. Thanks. Number 2, 5 over x plus x over x plus 2 equals 1. 5 over x plus x over x plus 2 equals 1. So, the first problem I showed you was if there's just one fraction on each side of the equal sign. That's when you cross multiply. All of the rest of them, and honestly every single one in your test, are going to be closer to like this. Okay, so if there's more than one fraction on a side, if there's more than one fraction on a side, then what you want to do here is you want to solve by multiplying through by the LCM. And remember, the LCM is what's going to cancel out every single part. Okay, so LCM is the least common multiple. Think of it like a common denominator. Okay, so it's not what goes into both of these, but what would I have to multiply by to cancel out both an x and an x plus 2? What would you have to multiply by to cancel out an x and an x plus 2? X and x plus 2. If I just multiplied by x plus 2, would it cancel out that x? No, because this is attached to something by a plus or minus. So you have to multiply by both. Okay, and you should write it next to every single part of your fraction or of your problem. So x times x plus 2. So you want to write x times x plus 2 next to every single part of your problem. Okay, you don't want to write it once because then it's difficult to see what's going to cancel. And I would also suggest writing it towards the numerator so that you can appropriately cross-reduce. Okay, so if you write x times x plus 2 next to every single part of your fraction, or part of your equation, what's going to cancel for this first part? The x reduces away. What reduces here? The x plus 2 reduces away. Then you actually want to multiply through. So we're going to multiply x plus 2 times 5. So that gives you 5x plus 10 plus x times x gives you what? X squared equals 1 times x plus 2 gives you x squared plus 2x. How do we solve if we have something with a square? Do you want numbers and letters on opposite sides, or do you want it all on the same side? You have a quadratic equation, so something with a square. Do I want numbers and letters all on opposite sides or same side? Anytime with x squared in the problem, move everything to one side to solve. So if you have an x squared in your problem, you want to move everything to one side to solve. Okay, and you want to set it equal to 0. So for this one, which way do you want to move things? To the left or to the right? Doesn't really matter. Okay. So here we're going to move the x squared, so subtract x squared, subtract 2x. Okay, I know that these are not perfectly lined up right now, but that's okay. Make sure that you line things up so that they're going to combine with the correct terms. Everything's going to cancel on the right side. You're going to get equals 0. What ends up happening here? 5x minus 2x gives you 3x. You still have a plus 10. What happens with the x squareds? They completely go away. So we get 3x plus 10 equals 0. How do you solve for x if you have 3x plus 10 equals 0? Move the 10, so subtract the 10. That leaves you with 3x equals negative 10. And then divide by 3 to get x by itself. So x equals negative 10 over 3. You will get fractions like this on your test. You should get fractions like this on your test if you do it correctly. Questions so far? Yes.
I don't see how you got x squared plus 2x from multiplying 1.
1 times x plus 2. X times x gives you x squared. X times 2 gives you 2x. Any other questions that you guys are confused about? Okay, let's try another one. For number 3, example number 3, I would like you to solve 2x over x plus 2 plus 3 over x squared plus x minus 2 equals 3 over x minus 1. 2x over x plus 2 plus 3 over x squared plus x minus 2 equals 3 over x minus 1. Any ideas where we would start? First, want to do same thing here. You want to multiply through by the LCM. How do you figure out what the LCM is? You have to have this factored, okay, to figure out what makes up this denominator. How can you factor this? What does that factor into? You're going to have 1 positive, 1 negative. Then what? What multiplies a negative 2 adds to a, this is like a positive 1. X plus 2 and x minus 1. So this basically is the LCM, right? So you're going to multiply every single part of this fraction by x plus 2 times x minus 1. Multiply every part of the equation by x plus 2 and x minus 1. And write it towards the numerator, towards the top, so that it's easier to reduce things. Then we reduce. So for the first part, the x plus 2's go away. Second part of your equation, everything reduces. Third part, the x minus 1's reduce. Then what? Then actually multiply. So x minus 1 times 2x gives you 2x squared minus 2x. Plus 3 isn't multiplying by anything, so just plus 3 equals, here the 3 distributes, so we get 3x plus 6. Now, is this a problem where I want numbers and letters on opposite sides, or do I want everything on one side set equal to 0? Set equal to 0 because it has a square in it. So we're going to move everything to one side. Okay, so I'm going to move it to the left because I want to keep that squared term positive. Move everything over. That leaves you with 2x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. Then how do you solve? How do we solve a quadratic equation? We've done this for a couple units. Factor set equal to 0. So you need to factor that. Okay, you guys work on factoring that. If you'd like to do guess and check, that's fine. If you want to do over under, that works as well. But that needs to be factored. Okay, so factor that. Go ahead. Factor. I should see writing. More than I'm currently seeing. Factor. Okay, anyone come up with how that factors yet? What do we got for factors? 2x plus 1 and x minus 3. Okay, those are right. However you came up with them. Okay, so if you either did over, under, or you did guess and check, then set each part equal to 0. So 2x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. If we work this out, what do we get for answers? I'm going to write them over here. X equals what? -1/2, and x equals +3. So you will get more than one answer on a lot of these problems. Okay, you will get more than one answer. Any questions on how I got there? Okay, 2 more. We all caught up to there? Okay, for number 4, example number 4, I would like you to solve 4 over x minus 3 over x plus 2 equals 2. 4 over x minus 3 over x plus 2 equals 2. So there's more than one fraction on each side. So what would you multiply by to eliminate the denominators? X and x plus 2. So you have to multiply by both x and x plus 2 next to every single part of this equation. So write x and x plus 2 next to every single part. Then reduce what you can, because the whole point here is to get rid of denominators. We don't want to deal with fractions if we don't have to. Then actually multiply through, so you're going to distribute x plus 2 with 4, so 4x plus 8. Here we're distributing a negative, okay? Make sure that you remember that you're taking this negative with the 3 to distribute to the x. So minus 3x equals, here you're distributing a 2x into both of these. Okay, so distribute the 2 and the x, so that'd give you equals 2x squared plus 4x. Do you want everything on one side, or do you want it all, or numbers and letters on opposite sides? One side. Which side would I move this to? The left or the right? Move it to the right. I'm sorry. First thing you should do is combine like terms. So this should be x plus 8 equals 2x squared plus 4x. Then I'm going to move everything to the right side because you want to keep this number positive. So minus x minus 8. Minus x minus 8. Line things up so that they're going to be combining like terms. So these go away. We get 0 equals 2x squared plus 3x minus 8. How do you think we solve for that? How can I solve for x? Anyone, any ideas? How can I solve? How did we solve the last one? Factor. Okay? Has anyone factored this yet? Or are you all just waiting for me to do it? Say it again. What's the last? Oh, you're waiting for me. How does this factor? Does this factor?
No.
This doesn't factor. So if something is not factorable, how do you solve? Does anyone remember? We haven't done this for a little bit, okay? But if something is not factorable, you have to use the quadratic equation, okay? You have to use the quadratic formula. You do have to memorize the quadratic formula. You should already have it memorized from Algebra 1, okay? It's the one with the song. You need to write it down, okay? So the x equals negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You have to memorize it. You have to memorize this formula. Okay? There's a couple different ways you can sing the song. You don't have to sing it. If you want to just memorize it, that's fine. Okay? The one I just did is to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel. There's another one that's Jingle Bells. It's x equals negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. However you do this, it needs to be memorized. Okay? However you figure it out, you need to memorize this formula. Okay? Then we find the ABCs. So A is 2, B is 3, C is negative 8. Trust me, I would not be doing this if it was not on your test. But it is. And there's more than one. So, identify your ABCs. Okay, just like in the quadratic equation, A is always whatever's attached to the x squared, B is whatever's attached to the x, C is whatever's at the end. So, start by plugging this in. So, negative 3 plus or minus b squared is 3 squared minus 4 times a is 2, c is negative 8. Gentlemen, if you don't want to pay attention, you can leave. Then stop talking. Over 2 times a is 2. You will need to use the quadratic formula. Okay, there are 2 problems on your test that you have to use the quadratic formula. There's no other way to solve them. Okay, and I need to see work. Not just all of a sudden random answers. If I don't see work, I am not giving you credit. Then simplify it. It gives you negative 3 plus or minus root 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times 2 times another negative 8 gives you plus 64 over 4. This one reduces to be negative 3 plus or minus root 73 over 4. If you can break anything out of there, you should. This one does not reduce, so you can leave your answer just like that. Okay, that is, nothing will break out of that one. So you should leave your answer just like that. Questions on how I did that? Okay, last one. For number 5, I'd like you to solve 1 minus 4 over x plus 2 over x squared equals 0. 1 minus 4 over x plus 2 over x squared equals 0. I'll put up the quadratic formula for you guys, but on your test, you need to have it memorized, or for your test on Friday. You do need to memorize that. Okay, so what do you have to multiply by to get rid of all these denominators? X squared. So multiply every part by x squared. Every part of this equation by x squared. Reduce where you can. And then multiply through. So x squared times 1 gives you x squared. Minus 4 times x is 4x. 2 times 1 is plus 2 equals 0. Remember, 0 times x squared is still 0. We're not adding. Then factor and solve. Okay, factor, set equal to 0, and solve. What's the problem here, though? It's not factorable. Okay, so how can you solve this? Quadratic formula, right? So write down your quadratic formula. I would write it every single time you have a problem like this. Okay, hopefully it'll help you memorize it. So it's x equals negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, write it down, sing the song in your head if you have to. Then you want to label your ABCs. A is 1, B is negative 4, C is equal to 2. Plug in, so we get negative negative 4. That negative on the outside does not count for the 1 attached to the negative 4. So negative, negative, it will turn positive in a minute after I simplify. So plus or minus, b squared is negative 4 squared minus 4 times a is 1, c is 2, over 2 times 1. When you simplify that, we're going to get 4 plus or minus root 16 minus 8 over 2. Keep simplifying. 4 plus or minus root 8 over 2. Now, can you simplify that even more? Yes. Okay, this reduces or simplifies to be 4 plus or minus, what's the square root of 8? 2 root 2 over 2. Now, this can reduce even more, okay? The way to do that is you need to split this into 2 fractions. This is actually 4 over 2 plus or minus 2 root 2 over 2. Then reduce each fraction separately. So what does 4 over 2 reduce to be? 2 plus or minus, what's 2 root 2 over 2? These go away, so we just get root 2. Technically, it's all over 1, but you don't need to write a denominator of 1. So that's the answer that I'm looking for. Questions on how I did that? No?